Yo, yo, yo. So I don't know about you guys, but Deadlock has been popping off on my feed. And honestly, when I tried to play this game the very first time, when a bunch of people were playing, I was like, the aesthetics doesn't really quite work for me. But seeing it now, I feel like the characters are so much more cool. A lot of these aesthetic changes have been made to the game, so I was like, wow, this game looks really nice all of a sudden. I still don't know if I really like the game, but I wanted to show you some of the really cool UI stuff that they have in Deadlock, and maybe we can make something. Yo, whoever made this theme is actually the GOAT. Green pigeons? Ghost pigeons? Yo, I love this game. So, walking up to the play screen is a pretty cool concept, but this isn't what I wanted to show you. So this is the screen. It's the hero selection screen, and I think it's so freaking cool. Look at what happens when you hover over these hero icons. It's a very simple yet such a very pleasing little animation that they have going on that I really wanted to make this for this video just to show you guys how just a couple simple lines of code, a little bit of animation work can probably make this really nice. Just taking a step back and looking at the overall screen, what I'm noticing is this is basically a grid container, right? It's got these number of rows, it's got this number of columns, and it's very simple to add something like a texture button that will be one of these things. Maybe you can throw a resource on it to indicate the hero selection, who knows. But in terms of getting it populated, it's just one single grid container. And another little detail that I really liked about this hero selection screen is, say I move my mouse really quickly over the heroes, something like this, right? You're going to notice that instead of spazzing out on the right side, it's got a timer on it so that it doesn't change the portrait until I've selected a hero for a certain amount of time. Maybe it's like half a second, 1 second, but it doesn't spasm as I spasm like this, which I think is a very nice way to improve the user experience. So, shall we get into it? So let's get started by creating a new scene. I'm going to create a control node on the top, and let's throw in a grid container. Control A to add a child. I'm looking for grid container. Okay, so something like this. I'm going to anchor it to the bottom left, and then I'm going to move it up just a little bit like this. And I'm going to save this into my prototype folder. I'm just going to call this Deadlock UI. And then, of course, rename this Deadlock UI. So I want to create a texture button because these are going to be a bunch of buttons. Create that. And inside the texture button, I'm going to hit right click, Atlas texture, expand this, and then throw in the panel that I just created in Sprite. And now we have to select the region that we want for the texture. By hitting edit region, select the area that you want. And when I do this, I have a step size of 1 and 1. So make sure that your snap mode, everything looks like this. And then you can select the pixels that you want. And then it'll pop up like this, right? And I'm going to duplicate the button by hitting Control D. And you're going to notice that my grid container is not set up properly. So let's go over to the grid container, look into theme overrides, which is where we mess around with the grid container properties. And oh, it's actually the columns that we're looking at. So I want to have more than just one column. I want to have, say, maybe about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, I think. So then with the 5 columns, the separation looks okay to me. So I think that's good. For the texture buttons, this second one, I wanted to have the other character. So I'm going to break this reference right here. By hitting this button, it's going to make the texture unique, which means that changing this one isn't going to change this one. So now I'm going to hit edit region, select the one that I want, which is this one. And just for good measure, I'm going to select both and hit Control D one more time, just so that we can have a couple of these guys. So that's pretty good. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a script to one of these buttons. I'm going to select the button that I want, and then I'm going to hit attach script, and I'm going to throw it into the right folder, which is right where the other stuff is. And I'm going to call this Deadlock button open. Create that. And I'm going to give this a class name, Deadlock button. Not sure if we need this, but just in case. Okay, so what are we going to do here? Let's start with function ready as per usual. And let's just think about what we need to do. We need to scale. So scale, and then we need to rotate. And lastly, we need to animate. These are the 3 things that we need to do, and we can look at them individually. Here, I'm going to run it real quick. And so when the mouse hovers over the button, we want it to scale up, which means that we have to use signals such as, I don't know the exact name, it's on hover, on mouse hover, and on mouse exit. We want this to scale up and scale down. So inside the texture button, I'm going to go back to the script. And then by selecting this button, going back over to signals, I'm going to see what I can use here. And inside the control class, we have the mouse entered and mouse exited signals that we can use. So I'm going to do mouse entered, which is the signal right here. And then I'm going to connect this to a function. And also mouse exited is going to be connected to another function. And this is giving us an error right now because we haven't connected. We haven't thrown a function into here. So let's create these functions. Function on mouse entered returns void, pass that. And then function on mouse exited returns void, pass this. Okay, so when we connect functions, when we connect the signal, which this is, to a function, we just need the name of the function. So it's just that. Just that. Okay, so let's first look at a property in the button. It is a new property that we have. It's inside transform, under layout, transform, and it's pivot offset ratio. So before you would have to take the size of the button and then take half the size, but now you can use the offset ratio and you can set it on this button, but let's do it in code so that we don't have to worry about the button and setting properties before we initialize. So we're going to just do pivot offset ratio equals vector 2 because this is a vector 2, right? Of type vector 2. And it's going to be 0.5, 0.5. Just looking at this tooltip right here, if it's 0, 0, it's going to scale from the top left of the corner. If it's 1, 1, it's going to scale from the bottom right corner. If it's 0.5, 0.5, it's going to scale around the center of the button, which is what we want. So before anything, we're going to set this. And now all we have to do is try to tween the scale. I'm going to do var tween, type tween equals create tween, which is how we usually initialize our tweens. And then it's going to be tween.tween property to start the tween process. And it's going to require an object that we're going to tween, which is going to be the button itself, right? And because the script is on the button, we can just call the self. And then what we want to change, what we want to tween is going to be the scale property. So we're looking just for scale. And let's go to maybe like, it looked pretty big in Deadlock. So vector 2, 2, 2. And this is a type vector 2 because scale is what? Scale is of type vector 2. And maybe this goes pretty fast. So for the duration, maybe it's about 0.5 seconds. And then we're going to take this exact same tween, go back over to mouse exited, and go from 2, 2 to 1, 1 over half a second. So now when we run this scene, just to see what happens, nothing happens. We only attached the script to one of them. Okay, it's not really the behavior we're looking for. It grows a little bit too slow, I think, and maybe it's a little bit too large as well. So let's go ahead, change this to half the duration, and then for the scale amount, I'm going to change it to 1.6. 1.6. I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to take my script right here, and I'm going to throw it into each of my buttons. Save that, run it again. Very cool, very cool. All right, so there's a little bit of overlap going on when we hover over. So let's change the z-index of the button that we're hovering over. I'm going to do z-index equals 1. And right here, I'm going to do z-index equals 0. So now when we run this, let's see what it looks like. There's a second where it kind of overlaps still, but you know what? I take it. let's have it rotate right away once we hover. So I'm gonna go right here, and the rotation needs to happen alongside the scale, but we want to loop the rotation, not the scale as well. So I'm thinking we create another tween. Var tween2, tween equals create tween. So we're gonna do tween2 dot tween property self. We're gonna do rotation degrees and maybe 10, and let's have it be 0.25 seconds. And then let's do tween2. Let's copy the exact same thing. Let's do negative 10 degrees here. And let's do set loops. So now this set loops without any argument inside is going to loop this infinitely. So let's see what that looks like. It doesn't stop. That's kind of funny. That's cool though, that's cool. So because this variable tween2 is being created inside this function, we have no way of accessing this inside this function right here when we actually leave the button. So let's bring this out for tween2 of type tween. And so now it's external to the function, which means it exists inside the script, which means that we cannot initialize here because it has already been initialized. So now it's tween2 create tween set loops like this, right? So now we're going to do this. On mouse exited, this is going to happen, but also if tween2 exists, then we're going to do tween2.kill, just like this to stop the tween. And also we're going to do rotation degrees equals 0. Save that. We're going to run it. Looks good, looks good. This video's taking too long. So let's try to wrap this up. So the next thing we have to do is we have to get the animation in. And for us to do that, let's see. Probably we're going to use an animated sprite and an animation player. That's what I'm thinking right now. So I'm going to go over to the texture button, just any one of them. And I'm going to do animation player and also an animated sprite. And so now I'm going to just hit this output for 1 sec, close that out. I'm going to go over to the inspector tab. And I'm going to hit this and I'm going to do sprite frames. And then I'm going to click it, which is going to bring up the sprite frames tab. And I'm going to go over to the add frames from sprite sheet. Go to assets to wherever your things are. Mine is right here. I'm going to hit open. And it's going to give me this window right here where I can select vertical 1, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames. And then I'm going to hit this button, select all, and add 5 frames. Now it looks like my sprites are inside, so I'm going to go over to 2D. And I'm just going to play this real quick just to see what it looks like. And from here, I can just change the FPS, see what looks good to me. We're probably not going to use this though, because we're not going to be playing this right here. Or are we? Oh yeah, maybe we can just use this. Maybe we can. Okay, so let's do 10 for now. Animation looping is on. I think that's good. And I'm going to go to here and let's add this animated sprite 2D right here. Now, if we were to run it at this point, it's going to crash because we don't have an animated sprite 2D in all of these buttons. So I'm just going to go real quick, throw them all in. There's probably a better way to create buttons like this, maybe like a scene, but this is just for show. So here we go. So now we've got the animation in, and the animation name is called default. So let's play the animation on mouse entered, right? So then it's going to be, as this is happening, we're going to do animated sprite 2D dot play, and then we can play default. Very nice, very nice. Very nice, very nice. That's what we like to see. Okay, so then when we exit, we want to stop the animated sprite. Animated sprite 2D dot stop, like this. Very nice. Okay, now let's land the animated sprite in the right spot. We should have done this first probably, but you know. So because this is a blue node, we don't have the anchor presets. Otherwise, it'd be pretty simple to align this. But I'm just going to use my arrow keys to get it roughly in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do ordering and drop the z-index like that. That looks about right, but I'm not super sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete all these animated sprite 2Ds because it is a lot easier to just copy them in once they're roughly in place. And the thing I hate is when I click this, it brings up the sprite frames tab, which is very annoying, but here, let's just paste all of this in, just like that. Okay, so save that, and now let's look at it one more time. Very cool, very cool. Okay. Script. Let's see. Animated sprite play. Okay, so we can't have it being shown right away. So right at the top, we're gonna go animated sprite 2D dot hide because we need to have it hidden, right? So once we start it, it's gonna be hidden. And when the mouse enters, before we play the animation, we're gonna show the animation. So show this, and then when we exit the mouse hover, we're going to stop the animation, and we're also going to hide the animation. That's what's up, that's what's up. Yo, this is it, guys. All right, it's not perfect though. If you move your mouse extremely fast, you're probably not going to like how it lingers once you leave it. So what I would do is I'd probably put another tween in so that instead of hiding it, you tween the visibility. Not the visibility, sorry, you tween the modulation. You tween the modulate property, just changing it from color.white to color.transparent. And that will give you a very nice fade instead of this very harsh. You can like catch the sprite for one frame before it gets hidden. And if you want to do it like Deadlock, then I think you would give it a timer so that the animation lingers for just a little bit more before it fades out. Because if you check that one out, it still plays the animation even though it's not hovering anymore. So just a bunch of cool different ways to do this. Hopefully this was pretty useful to you guys. If you guys made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of you. Next fest is coming up so soon. Hopefully you guys check out Cauldron Craft. It's going to be coming out next fest. You guys can play the demo. Make sure to wishlist it if you want to support me. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.